With your permission, sir, would love your opinion. Tear me to shreds.
Okay. Well,
this is Stanton Moore, one of the most famous New Orleans drummers alive, and he's about to react to me playing his most famous song. You might be wondering how I got myself into this. Well, I'm kind of a glutton for punishment because for the past year, I've been covering the songs of famous drummers and bands, asking the hypothetical question, could I do the gig? It's all well and good to come in here and practice every day, to aspire to play with this or that artist, but what would you do if you actually got the gig? So for this video, I learned the repertoire of one Mr. Stanton Moore. Student of the great Johnny V, member of the band Galactic, owner of Tipitinas, played on Zildjian Live, did a TV show with Stuart Copeland, drum royalty and New Orleans royalty. So it's his song I learned. Then, in a stroke of either really good luck or really bad luck, he agreed to talk to me and tell me how I did. As we'll see, this wasn't an easy one.
This is the first one of these that may not happen.
Which just goes to show, when I do these videos, there's no guarantee it's going to turn out well for me.
With your permission, sir, would love your opinion. Tear me to shreds.
okay. Well,
Today on 80/20, Stanton Moore reacts to me playing his most famous song. Stay tuned. Very quick sponsor message. One of the themes we're going to deal with in this video is time and where you place the beat. And if you'd like a free video on all the techniques I use to eliminate those little areas of rushing and dragging from my playing, so that on a recording session or a gig, if I've had those, I can just stop thinking and know that if I play where it feels right, it's going to be in time. Just click the link below the player and tell me where to send it. I don't share this on YouTube, but it's free if you join my mailing list. By the way, you can join, get the free stuff, and then cancel. You can 100% do me like that. You can be that guy. But help me by helping you. Help me, help you, help me. Okay, back to the show.
This is one of the rare times I'm gonna gripe about people changing the shape of the kit drastically. I'm not trying not to be a setup snob, but when I've got an hour to do everything, gah!
So, I had to catch Stanton when he was available if I wanted the interview. That meant I was left with just a day to learn the song, which I knew would be a close shave.
Okay, solid. If that were a dress rehearsal, I'd be happy. We definitely want another take. There are some precision things.
What I underestimated was just how much more work this song would take. So now, let's talk about the song. Pie Eyed Manc first appeared on Stanton Moore's Groove Alchemy record, released in 2010. Here's some footage of Stanton and his band performing it the same year it was released. Since then, it's become a classic play-along, with a number of drummers recording covers. Stanton even hosted a contest, inviting other drummers to cover it, among a few other of his tunes. One of whom was this guy, Jay Tibbetts. So by covering Pie Eyed, I'm not only filling Stanton's shoes, I'm also filling the shoes of everybody else who's ever tried to cover the song. And yeah, in 24 hours or less. Anyway, let's use Stanton's 2018 performance at the UK Drum Show to check out the song a little more. Pie Eyed begins with this syncopated organ riff from Robert Walter. A little drum fill and we're in. The groove seems simple, though as I'll explain later, it's got some hidden challenges. There's this mini bridge with these figures to catch, then it comes back to the verse. Stanton throws in some cowbell here. There's another mini bridge, then the solos. Finally, there's this section at the end of the solos with some syncopation to catch. That's all the material we'll learn in Pie Eyed, though the verse and bridges repeat at the end. As I struggled to learn the song, the most interesting part immediately was the drum beat from the verse. So let's break that down. Here's Stan playing the opening groove of Pie Eyed. He uses a hand-to-hand sticking like this. Because I was learning this in 24 hours, I decided to use the sticking that was most natural to me, which was this. We'll come back to this because, as I'll tell you guys, I think something was fooling my ear about the center of the beat. But there's another thing that struck me as I was learning this. Listen to Robert Walters' riff. Now, listen to this Brazilian samba. Listen to this Puerto Rican plena. Was I crazy that this deeply New Orleans song sounded like a clave? So I asked Stan.
Why does Pie Eyed Manc sound like it's in clave?
I started thinking I was pretty slick, that I had come up with, a Zig influenced beat that Zig hadn't played yet, right? Then we recorded it and all that kind of stuff. Then I started to realize, wait a minute, it's basically just Sissy Strut started on beat 3. So then that would, conversely, that would put Pie Eyed Manc into 3 clave. And it's definitely Afro-Caribbean, 1,000,000%. And it's New Orleans. And what's so interesting about New Orleans is myself and a lot of people consider New Orleans the northernmost part of the Caribbean. Through the horrific practices of slavery, with forced migration of slavery coming from Africa through Brazil, through Cuba, through New Orleans. So once things get to New Orleans, things developed as Afro-Cuban, Afro-Brazilian, Afro-Caribbean, Afro-New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And what you get is these African rhythms.
Yeah. So it's clear there's a lot of history in this little song. You had all the influences from the Caribbean coming up through New Orleans, which inspired a little beat by Ziggy and the Meters called Sissy Strut, which, according to Stanton, inspired Pie Eyed Manc. But as we're about to see, knowing about the song's origins is a long way from playing it. Without further ado, here's my first crack at it.
You guys silly? I'm still gonna send it.
One more time. Yeah. Take 4 again.
I get it.
I played the first fill a little on top of the beat, but I don't hate it. I'm a little ahead of the beat here too, but it feels nice and loose. Let's skip ahead to the mini bridge. So far, so good. Ooh, I know like you that. I rushed that quite a bit. In the interest of time, let's cut to the solos. This sounds fine to me. At any rate, there was no more time for any detail work because I needed to send this to Stan. But just before I did that, I posted it on Instagram. And it's at that point that I should have had an inkling things weren't going to go perfectly. Listening to it again and again, the areas I was rampantly ahead of the beat started to weigh on me. But it was too late.
Well, we are right on the cusp. This is the closest I've ever cut it, but did get the recording to him. He did agree to listen to it, so we'll see.
It was time to hop on with Stanton and ask him the question.
With your permission, sir, would love your opinion. Tear me to shreds.
Okay. Well, great job. And, you know, hats off to you for tackling that. And, you know, even for me, that's not an easy song to play. And it was not an easy song for me to get comfortable with when I tracked it. And we played it live for a while before I did it, before we even tracked it. So comments that I have on your take on it would be, for one, I felt like you could lean back a lot. And, you know, in preparing for talking with you, I've watched a few of your videos, and, you know, one of the things you talked about that I thought was really, you know, something very important to talk about is, what do great drummers have that other drummers don't? And that is the ability to play with themselves and not flam, right? And so I would say apply that concept with the play along and don't flam with the band.
Okay, so just finished with Stanton, and the exact thing I thought about my recording, which is that I was too on top of the beat, he called out. Did I think he wasn't gonna notice? Yeah, anyway, he was also very kind about it. Lot to process, more practice to do, so we'll see where it goes from here. For a few days, I couldn't get out of bed. I'd been judged by one of my drum heroes and found wanting. Hang on a second, that's not true. You pretty much picked yourself up right away. I cursed the heavens, demanding to know why, God. No, you didn't. I remember you taking a bath and then going to have lunch. Fine, so it didn't bug me that much. But it would have, had I not had this adage from Nate Wood in my head.
Kids learn in the way that they absorb information is through not being critical with themselves. It's by repetition until they understand something or it feels right to them. And that's the way that I try to approach music. Either way, I now had a mission. I have to redeem myself. I have to play it again. There was just one problem. I didn't want this to happen. And there's no way you're going to fix it until you practice it, you know? I mean, you might be able to be like, lay back here, but then, you know, you're kind of driving on like a course at that point. You're not really like allowing yourself to be creative. So it's just a tricky dance. Which meant that instead of being super self-conscious and immediately getting back into the studio thinking, don't rush, I'd do as Nate suggested and try to recalibrate my instincts over the medium term by practicing. So for the next couple weeks, I did just that. I would pull Pie Eyed out every few days and just do a run through. That way I was getting more familiar with it organically. The aim was to do another run through without thinking consciously about anything, much less not rush.
We're back. It's about 3 weeks after my interview with Stanton, and I've just been low-key practicing it ever since then, like a couple times a week, and then just listening to it. And that's the Nate Wood strategy. That's kind of the ambient, just let it grow on you, thinking more about the music. Boy, I hope this take works, because I don't want to do it again. Anyway, we're about to record what I hope will be the final take. We'll post it tonight. Later! Eventually, it was time for the second day of shooting, and it was definitely better, but something still wasn't right. It was as if my ear wasn't latching to the true center of gravity of the beat, like I was being misled by an auditory optical illusion. In fact, let's talk about it. If you just listen to the surface layer of Pie Eyed, you're missing some key data. And I'll tell you what I think is going on. Stanton can check me on this if he watches this video. I think Robert Walter is playing a little ahead of the center of gravity, but guitarist Will Bernard is actually laying back a little.
This creates a cool tension where one member is pushing the beat slightly and the other is pulling. But instead of having all the notes you need to hear in a single register, you have to listen more deeply. To test this, let's listen to my time on the solo section, when there's a more conventional bass line on the downbeats. Not rushing, right? But in the verse with that meters clave thing, it's too deep to just listen to the surface. If I want to be in time and still play by instinct, I can't just think, don't rush. I have to listen carefully to the guitar. With that in mind, I got in the studio for a third and final day.
Okay, we're here for hopefully the last day. Tried it yesterday, it was alright, it was better. We don't want to force things. So what do? We practiced a little. I'm gonna try it one last time. Let's hope it's better.
I think. Was I wrong on the tape there? I think it was the third day. Anyway, let's listen to my final take. I'm still on top a bit on the fill into the verse. But once we're in the verse, things settle down. Now, let's go ahead to the transition to see if my listen to the guitar trick worked. That feels way better. Let's cut to the end. I'd gotten through it, but I still wasn't feeling great.
Alright, well that wasn't that much fun. Perfectionism definitely crept in. That's what happens sometimes when you learn a tune quickly. I think I just need more time. Also just because this style, so many layers of stuff to lock up with. It's just a revelation. Anyway, hopefully this is a respectable tape because if it's not, alright.
Against all my instincts, I resisted the urge to listen again immediately. Instead, I slept on it and had to listen a couple days later.
Okay, so it's 3 days later. I am about to listen to takes from Pie Eyed with a little bit of detachment when usually they sound better. So just listened and I think it sounds great. I think, is it as good as Stanton? Of course not. Is it a much better representation of where I'm at? And my style, even if my style's a little on top of the beat. Yeah, were there any cringe moments? No, it just felt human. I think all the mistakes just felt human, so I'm gonna put this out there. Just amazing how much we can get in our heads in the studio when perfectionism creeps in. That'd be a lesson, y'all. All right.
That's a relief. It was time to post again on Instagram. If you want to watch the entire take, link below in the description. And it wasn't until the comments started rolling in that I was reassured. Is this the best I can possibly play it? Probably not. It will be better in a couple years. But it's time to put it out there as a chronicle of where I am right now. Guys, I think we learned two big things from this experience. First, New Orleans music, like jazz or samba, and any other music with deep roots and decades, if not centuries of tradition, is not something you're going to pick up overnight. You wouldn't just travel to England, fake an accent, and expect to pass as a local, right? The thing that caught me out was the usual signals my ear looks for to determine the center of gravity of the beat were causing me to play two on top, because I wasn't listening to the layers. So I should approach stuff like this with humility, obviously. But the other lesson is that sometimes when you go super deep on a song or whatever you're learning, you can start seeing ghosts. It can be difficult to tell if you're really seeing imperfections or if you're just starting to be too self-critical. The first time, it was the former. The second time, it was the latter. By the way, that thing could be its own whole video. Anyway, recording myself, putting it on the shelf for a few days, then coming back was the biggest thing that helped. Did we do a thing? Well, guys, hope you enjoyed this one, and let me know how you think I did. Leave a comment below. And as I said earlier in the video, if you'd like a little course that goes way deeper into timekeeping and the metronome techniques and the practice hacks I used to get better, just click the link below the player and you'll get that completely free. Dudes, it's been real. Always enjoyed these. See you again real soon in another lesson of the week. Let me Google this. Stanton.
Brilliant! Brill! I know at least we got the front and the audio. Hopefully we got the overhead. Hopefully! We got the overhead! If we don't do an outtake, I'm gonna scream.